guess I'm waiting for a high sign from you.
You're good.
Okay.
You're live.
I'm Dave. So this is a presentation I've done a number of places, including World Fantasy and other events. But usually I have 2 hours. And so over the course of 2 hours, what I have you do is do some writing on your end. And the idea is that you come out with a written query letter. And we also talked about the process. Not quite sure how this is going to go. I'm going to try to cover the query part. If we have time to talk about process, awesome. But if not, I guess we're just going to find out. So I will give away those 3 books at the end. And there are few enough of us here, I guess I'll randomize and just point at the audience and pick someone. I guess that's about it for logistics. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip the let me tell you who I am. So if you don't know, too bad. And the objectives are not the same either. So what I want to do is I want to talk about writing query letters. Specifically, no, you understand what it was. Specifically, the archetypally, what I'm really aimed at here is helping you write a good query letter to go get an agent or an editor, okay, a publisher. But the same stuff we're going to talk about can also be used to generate, for example, the back cover copy of your book, okay? Or it can be used to generate the Amazon description, or it can be used to develop a verbal pitch, okay? So I'm going to talk mostly in terms of query letter, but if you're in the back of your head have something else, some other intended use, right? All good. All right, so I think there is a good argument to be made, or I'm going to teach you like a formula, okay? Think about this like when you're in school and you write 5-paragraph essays for a while, right? Obviously, you're not going to spend your life writing 5-paragraph essays, but writing the 5-paragraph essays teaches you to sort of think structurally and organize kind of what you say and get your rhetoric right. Well, this is like the 5-paragraph essay of query letters. Okay? So you don't need to. It's a formula. It's a structure, but you don't need to come away feeling like, oh, well, I have to follow that formula slavishly. And hopefully, have time at the end. I'll show you some examples. So, what is a query letter? A query letter is not a submission. A query letter is a request to a professional, right? To an agent to represent you, or to a publisher to publish your book. The query letter for an agent, maybe I should ask you guys, are you guys looking for agents? Should I just like, some of us? Okay, all right. Okay, so maybe if we have time, we'll talk about that process at the end a little bit, okay? So your query letter needs to include a request that the person does something. Right? So you're giving them a persuasive pitch. Hey, I want you to take a look at my book and consider representing me. Or, I would like you to read the manuscript and consider publishing this manuscript. Okay? It's a request for someone to do something. Usually the query ends, may I send you the whole manuscript for your consideration. Okay? Now, let's talk about form. A good query, I think, has 3 paragraphs. A great query might have more or less, but a good, solid query has 3 paragraphs. Okay? And the order goes like this. Paragraph number 1. This story sounds good. Okay? Paragraph number 2. Oh, no, wait. No, it sounds really good. Okay? And paragraph 3 is the business. Okay? What you want and the business facts around it. So let's talk about those things, but not in order. Okay, if you are emailing an agent, it's probably an email. It's unlikely you're sending a print letter at this point. Okay, if you are emailing an agent, the last paragraph of your query email covers this stuff right here. Hey, here is how long my book is. Okay. Among other things, this is telling the agent whether you have a good idea of how long the book should be, right? I'm just not going to stand still. Sorry, that's just wrong. Okay, you're just going to have to record me audio and video when you can find me. What genre is this book that I would like to send you? By the way, it's very easy to go wrong here. Okay, your genre identification can have one word. Maybe it's worth having two. I know that on Amazon, right? Amazon now you can choose increasingly microscopically sized genres. Okay, but if you write to an agent and you say, what I have is a post-apocalyptic dystopian Arthurian steampunk novel, you just sound silly. Okay? From the agent's point of view, what is genre about? What's the point of genre? Like, why does this exist, and why do you need to know it?
For marketing.
It is for marketing. That's right. And Amazon, right, is one gigantic infinite bookshelf where everything is cross-indexed, and so you can have 10 different genres, and they can be all small to the point of being silly. So that when your book launches, you go, I got #1 in post-apocalyptic steampunk Arthurian dystopia, right? That's not helpful for anyone who's trying to get to a bookstore. So if you're emailing an agent, you want to say it is a fantasy novel, okay? Or maybe you say it is a fantasy romance, or it is an urban fantasy. More than that is, this is not a place to try and be clever. This is a try to play, right? Because conceptually, what you're saying is, here is the bookshelf this would go into on Barnes & Noble, right? And if you're not sure, maybe actually go into Barnes & Noble and look. And say, okay, well the answer is it's this, right? So okay, how long is it? What genre is it? Is it a series? You know, is it a standalone novel? Right? This kind of gets a little bit for querying into like the idea of a pitch and what makes a good pitch. But like ideally, what's your highest odds shot? By the way, on that question, what do you want to say? What's the best answer for getting an agent?
Series?
Ooh,
Trilogy with potential for more?
Oh no, it is complete in and of itself, but could have sequels, right? Because look, the agent and also the editor she's going to go sell to, the question they're asking themselves is should I invest more time in this person? Okay, and it's a cost benefit and a risk analysis they have to make, and so you can make yourself more attractive by making the upside seem enormous. You can also make yourself attractive by making the investment look small. Hey, it's one book. If we try the one book, it doesn't work out, then so be it, right? If you say it's a 27-book post-apocalyptic Arthurian, right? No, because I'm not committing to 27 books with anybody when you're a stranger, right? So, but actually tell the truth, right? So if it actually is book one of a trilogy, you should probably say that. So now here's where, okay, here's another place people get tempted. In the business, you want to state relevant qualifications that you have. And people get very excited because they are nervous and they want to seem qualified. And so you see things like, I have a bachelor's degree in English, okay? Or I substitute taught in a creative writing class at the high school. Err on the side of not saying it, whatever it is, right? It's perfectly okay just to describe the book, and then the agent will understand. You know, you're not a previously published author. You're not whatever. Okay. If you won like a prize that's kind of relevant and recent and big, if you've got existing books, if you have a really big social media presence, okay. If you're Shaquille O'Neal's child. Maybe you mention that, okay? But as a rule of thumb, go easy. And this is how your query letter should end: is the thing that you want, okay? And so if you're querying an agent or a publishing house, right? You're saying, hey, can I send you the complete manuscript for your consideration? Now, if we get to process, we'll talk about this maybe a little more. You'll have looked up the publisher or the agent online, and you'll know what their submission asks for. So also in here is going to be something like, hey, you know, my novel such and such title, it's 80,000 words long. First standalone novel, could be a series if, you know, it went well. And then whatever it is that they ask for in their submission guidelines. I've pasted 10 pages of the first 10 pages of the book below my signature in the email. right? Or chapter 1 is below my signature. All right, that's, yes?
Do you ever write this before the book is finished? What you say?
I know people who have done that. Well, first of all, it doesn't hurt you to write it. Actually, that's an interesting question. Writing the query letter for yourself may help you sharpen your thought as to what the novel is. I don't do that, but I have heard people do who say they do. I also know people who have written the query letter before the book is finished and then sent it. I don't know anyone who has done that, finished the book, and then gotten it published. I think you risk getting a yes, and then you don't have a book to produce, and then it takes you longer than you'd like, and then they've forgotten you, and you've hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not recommend sending a query out before your book is ready. So if that was the real question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think there might be an advantage in doing that? Are you thinking that's a strategy?
I just, pretty much brand new to this, but I thought maybe you'd see if there'd be interest on the other side. Would this be a good idea or no?
No. I mean, look, I'm sure out there are some people who did this and it worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
People I know who did this ended up then not getting the agent because too much water was under the bridge. Even if there's a demand for it now, if it takes you a year to finish the book, the demand may have been filled, would be gone, agent may be dead. I wouldn't, I mean, it's possible, right? For those reasons, I wouldn't do it. Yes?
So if you have an impressive qualification, but it's unrelated to writing or like social media presence, you do or don't include that?
Tell me what qualification you have in mind.
A PhD from Yale University?
That is an impressive qualification. If it relates to the subject matter of the book, I would put in a serious academic degree. So if your book is about zombies, but it's about zombies who are created by, a tropical disease, or, some kind of brain parasite, and you are a PhD biochemist and your doctoral thesis was on a parasite very similar to the one in your novel, I might say that, right? Even if it was like a degree in literature, I just don't think I would say it. Yeah, I know it feels hard to send out the query letter with not saying anything, but actually the first 2 paragraphs are gonna hook them or not, right? So, other questions on this point? No, okay. So, all right, let's, so I've got some paragraphs from actual query letters I used. I am not suggesting that this is a perfect example. I'm giving you a real world example so we can critique it. This is the second book I wrote. The first was trash. The second one got me an agent. This query letter got me a pretty big name agent, who by the way dumped me after a year of not selling any of my books. Awesome. So this is paragraph 3. Let's take a look at it and tell me what I could do better, what I might have done wrong.
You've got 4 words for your genre, and you just said use 1 or 2.
The genre is terrible. I thought I was being so clever. It's terrible. I should have just said, it's a middle reader book, or it's a middle reader, mystery, right? Because by the way, all the sort of it's funny and it's supernatural and gothic, like the first 2 paragraphs was full of that stuff. I didn't come to here and say, it's the story with a ghost is supernatural, right? So yeah, very good. The genre is way overstated. What else?
You said the second book and not the first.
You
So The Devil's Inner is my first book.
No. But that's just the shortening of the title.
Oh, okay. All right.
Although maybe I should have. That's an interesting point. Maybe I should have been clearer. Yeah, that's a good one. What else?
First in the series.
First in the series is sub-ideal, right? I shouldn't have said that, truthfully. It didn't have to be. It could have been published as is. Yeah. What else?
Is the first sentence slightly redundant because representation and consideration would be similar things?
Well, that's interesting. I don't like the first sentence. Here's the reason I don't like it. I think this should be last. And I should say, hey, listen, here's these 2 paragraphs describing. This is just rhetoric, right? Persuasive speech. But that's what this is. And I would say, hey, I'd like to submit to your consideration the droller. By the way, the title's also too long. That just looks pretentious. Okay, I should have just said, that. That should have been the title. I'd like to submit the case of the Devil's Interval. It's 41,000 words long. Targeted at intelligent readers of all ages is ridiculous. Notice, by the way, I don't list any qualifications in here. Right? But it should have ended saying, may I submit this book for your consideration? Yeah, there's no call to action, right? I don't actually ask him to do anything, right? So now, like I said, this worked. It was okay. It worked. He picked me up. Had him as an agent for a year, but that doesn't mean I couldn't have done better. Right? All right. I think we should probably talk about. See, this is the part where if we had 2 hours, you would now sit down and write your third paragraph. We are not going to do that. We're going to go back to paragraph 1. Okay, paragraph 1 has basically one job, and that is to make the agent or editor or whoever, right, the person standing looking at the back of your book, the person reading the description on Amazon, to make them keep reading, right, to make them keep reading. Now, I actually think the way to approach this is with a Mad Lib. So no, I'm not suggesting that this Mad Lib should be your first paragraph, but I actually think you should write this Mad Lib down, get all the answers, and then take that and polish it and turn it into your first paragraph. Because in your first paragraph, there are some things you want to say. In any popular genre, okay, what is going to hook a reader, including an editor or an agent, is that there's a character who is likable, who has a problem for which there are big stakes. That is the thing you have to put into your first paragraph. Okay? That's what the Mad Lib is trying to do. So, hey, so-and-so is a, orphan, a young Nashville dancer, a whatever, who more than anything else in the world wants, this is probably small enough for you guys to read back there, huh? Who more than anything else in the world wants whatever, but can't get it because there's a problem. By the way, if you give me your email address, I will mail you the slide deck afterwards. So if you're having a hard time reading it, you can see it that way, okay? Okay, so look, this first sentence of the Mad Lib sets up a character. Look, I need to describe her in ways that are sympathetic, and that can include what is the problem, right? How do I make a character appear sympathetic in one sentence, by the way?
Lost a job.
Yeah, suffering a common problem, that in itself, right? Lost a job, or just got dumped, or right? Country music song, the truck is broken and my dog died, right? What else?
Dog is broken and truck left.
The dog is broken and the truck left me. So that's one thing. What else can you do to make someone seem sympathetic?
They're an underdog.
Yeah, so them being an underdog is partly that's the problem. Maybe partly that's also why can't she, why can't she get what she wants, right? Because maybe the villain is powerful. But also we admire people for other reasons, or we identify with them. If you have a way to show them being, good at what they do, or a decent person, or if you have a way to show them being funny, right? In one sense, it's tricky. But if you're really working out kind of a paragraph out of this Mad Lib, right? Do something to make your character appear like it's someone that we should care about. So to overcome the problem, she sets out on her quest. What does the person do, right? Like the big all caps in bold, this is the Mad Lib part. She goes to seek for the lost sword of Aranon. She, travels back in time to the 15th century to research her own great-grandmother, or whatever it is. Because if she fails, there will be consequences. There will be consequences. This is the part I would love to have you actually work on. Is anybody willing to verbally take a stab at trying to pitch a book they're working on? A work in process? Yeah?
Yeah, I just wrote it. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay. The book is called Thinking Outside the Block. I know this isn't in your right format, but it follows a young woman's journey in the 1980s as she escapes from communist Poland to Japan. Kasia arrives in Tokyo hoping for the best, but soon discovers that her new boss is involved with the Japanese underworld. As every day becomes more dangerous, Kasia must act quickly, deciding what she's willing to risk to find a way out and a better life.
Hey, I like that a lot.
Oh.
So Kasia is why is she sympathetic to us?
What I didn't add this in. Her mother, she needs to escape because she needs to help pay for her mother's medical costs.
So that's interesting. You can work that in too. But already she's a refugee from communist Poland, right?
Yes.
So she's a fish out of water, and we know she's working hard. She got trapped with a bad boss, right? I've never been a refugee, but like some of those other things, right? I can personally identify with. Fantastic. So she's sympathetic. I love that. She has a problem. Shady things are happening, right? So I think that's great.
Oh.
And I want to not trying to elicit, stuff to critique. If I were to polish that, one of the things I might do is try to be a little more specific about what's the shadiness, right? And what does she need to do to get out of the situation? Like the more concrete and specific we can be, right? Like what is it? Are they eating endangered species in the restaurant, or is there a body in the
sex trade industry?
Okay, so I think that maybe is worth delicately, right, indicating. So, but I think that's really great job of just a couple sentences telling us, the basic situation of a character who's very sympathetic. So that's fantastic. I think that's the main thing your first paragraph needs to do. So actually, that's my third bullet, right? So the stakes need to be, the stakes are big because the stakes are Kasia's life, right? She's trapped in this terrible situation. And they should be as concrete and specific as possible. Vivid and tangible, action should be full of risk. And paragraph 1 needs to stay focused on the main character. It's very tempting to say, but I have an ensemble cast, so I'm going to talk about this character and this character. No, paragraph 1 paragraph, talk about one character, okay? The character that you think is the main character, and if you don't think you have one, then pick the character that's most interesting, the one you think you can hook the agent with. You're just trying to get the agent or the editor to keep, or the person standing in the bookstore to keep reading. So again, you're just trying to keep the agent reading, right? So here are some other techniques in your first paragraph that you might think about to try to hook readers. Voice. If your novel is about voice, you might try to write the query letter in the voice of the novel. So if you have written a series of unfortunate events, right? I don't know what the query letter for that looked like, but I would have written that query letter as Lemony Snicket, right? Because then the query letter shows exactly what the book is about. Or, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, write it in the voice of Greg Heffley, right? Most books are not about voice. High concept, this is a very common technique. Compare your book to known existing properties. Now, there are some pitfalls, right? If you start saying, so this is a thing I actually said. I went to Worldcon in Rio, and I went out to Scrolling with the Stars. I met a couple of editors from science fiction publishers, and I was actually dressed. I didn't have the hat, but I was, wearing this very sport coat and standing there at 100 degrees at 8 in the morning, and talking to these two editors. And they said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a writer." And one said, "Well, what do you write?" And I said, "Well, the thing I'm working on now is called Witchy Eye, and it's kind of like Game of Thrones meets Last of the Mohicans." One of the editors snorted and turned her back on me. The other one, 4 years later, bought the book. So, look, it's all risk, right? I think the editor snorted and turned her back because she heard 1,000 people tell her that their book was the Game of Thrones, right? Because this maybe is just too big. And I didn't mean, oh, it's a super big fantasy. What I meant is it's brutal politics, right? But maybe I inadvertently sort of sounded like I was, just desperate to be seen as a bestseller. Where else might you go wrong comparing your book to existing series or to movies?
If it ends badly, they might have that bad taste in their
Maybe
mouth.
they hate the movie. Totally a risk. Yeah. What else?
It's
Maybe.
confusing, like it's Harry Met Sally plus aliens.
Yeah. Exactly. That doesn't tell me anything, right? At best, you might get a question, "What do you mean?" Or they might just nod and go, "Oh, okay, yeah." So look, so make sure if you're going to do this that you really, at least in your mind, you know what you mean, and that they're books that people have heard of and have read, or movies they've read. Beware of overreaching. Here's another one I use. The kidnap plot is like it's Pinocchio, but if Jules Verne wrote it, right? And that worked. Sold that book. Another thing is you can ask a question, right? Hey, what would happen if blah blah blah, right? Kasia is a refugee from Poland. So don't use them all. Don't feel like you need to use one of these, but you may. So here again, this is the same query letter we just saw a few minutes ago. This is how the query letter started. So again, like when I say that later it was silly of me to say that the genre was supernatural mystery. I mean, I said it in the very first. It was a waste of my time. So even here, this is, well, I don't know. That's okay. It doesn't feel very compact because there's two questions, but all right. So that's an example of what that looks like. So all right, that brings us to paragraph 2. Paragraph 2. So you captured the agent's or the editor's interest. Maybe you asked a question. Maybe you made a snazzy comparison. Maybe you just got them hooked on the character. Maybe you wrote a limerick for your first paragraph, and they were like, "Oh, that's hilarious!" So they kept reading. Okay, I don't know. Paragraph 2. What you need to do, or what you're trying to do, is just increase the interest. Right? You've got them reading now. Increase the interest. What you're going to write depends a lot on the book and the genre of the book. Okay. So let's consider some possibilities. If you have written a fantasy novel and you think the coolest thing is the magic system you did, this is where you talk about it. Okay? You don't talk about it first. You put it here. If you are writing a hard science fiction novel, and you've got some idea about a variant of the Alcubierre drive or whatever, and you want to talk about that or the hard science involved in your story, this is where it goes. Another thing you can very commonly put here in your second paragraph is a description of a different element of the plot, like a subplot. Okay? So normally your first paragraph you're going to start, you're going to talk about what the main character challenge, the stakes, what she wants to do, right? Plot. Here you get a subplot. Like what?
Romance.
Like the romance, right? If you're written a romance, by the way, if you're written a romance novel, maybe, you actually put the romance plot in the first paragraph, and then the second paragraph you might talk about the ostensible plot. Can Martha sell the farm in time before, the tax lien comes due, and, will the mysterious stranger who has also stolen her heart run away with her money, right? But yes, if you're writing not a romance novel, but a novel with a major romance plot, maybe it goes in paragraph 2. If you wrote an ensemble novel, okay, and you don't really have a main character, you have a collection of central characters. So your first paragraph's about the one who's most sympathetic and to whom the stakes are biggest. But then here is where, having described Frodo, you talk in paragraph 2 about Aragorn and his lost kingdom and his love, right? If the setting is really important, because it's set in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where you grew up, right? And you want to sort of get in some of that detail and sort of slip in a little bit of I know what I'm talking about. This is the paragraph where you do it, right? So having hooked the agent with a main character, you're trying to hook them again. Trying to hook the agent with, and what you're going to hook them with depends on the book and the genre. Okay. See, all these instructions were like, then I had you sit and write something, but we're not doing that. Okay, so actually, I should have passed this out. I'm going to pass these out now. Here's a complete query letter I wrote. Okay, and this is a book that got picked up, and Carlos pass it back so you can take a look. Again, I'm not sharing this to say, hey, all my query letters are the best, but to say, look, once you get comfortable with the model, you can start mixing the pieces around and use these kind of different components, especially paragraph 1 and 2, maybe in different orders, and your 5-paragraph essay maybe will only have 4, or maybe it will have 7, or it will have 3 in a picture or something, okay? All right. So that's basically, okay, that's like the hyper-condensed half-hour version of about an hour of ordinary, workshopping. Anything you want to talk about around query letters, and then maybe, are we interested in talking about the process of getting an agent at all? Is that, getting some yeses? Okay. Any questions or comments on query letters?
I thought that I'd heard you were supposed to, in the first paragraph, write something related to the specific agent that you were sending it to let them know you researched them.
I never did it.
You never did.
I didn't do it for either of, this is the part I skipped at the front where I said I'm going to skip the part about why you should listen to me. I picked up my own agent, my first agent, just with out of cold writing. He dumped me after a year. I picked up my second the same way. Once I had an agent, my wife quite reasonably said, well, clearly any idiot can do this. So I then helped her write a query letter and she got her agent, right? So I have a lot of success doing this. I have never looked up the agent to say, oh, congratulations on your recent award, right? The only time I would do that is if I actually had met the agent and there was a good chance they'd remember me, right? Hey, I was at Vegas. I was the guy holding your hair back while you were vomiting over the balustrade, right? Okay, I remember you. But if you're one of 300 people they met, or you didn't meet them at all, honestly, I think it's extra work, and I don't think it helps.
Okay.
So I wouldn't do it. Now, we got to research the agent. We're going to talk about this because you don't want to send them stuff they don't represent, because then you're wasting their time.
I had an agent for several years, but he's left the industry.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of standalone novels that I still want to go traditional.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, find another agent, and I don't know, do I put that up top, that I had an agent, or everybody's like.
I put that down in the business section. I'd say, hey, I was previously represented by so-and-so of such and such literary, who's now retired.
Okay.
I'm looking for an agent again.
Okay, so down in the bottom.
Yeah, and I would say, comma, who is now retired, just so you're subtly saying, and I was not dumped,
Right.
right? Like, there's no reason to make the agent wonder whether that was how it
Yeah, I
happened.
got a query editor, and she's fond of run-on sentences, and my query letter ended up a lot longer than I normally write.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm here, because I was like.
That's
what?
probably a bad sign.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Your query should
So
be short.
keep it short.
Yeah, keep
Okay.
it short.
I'm
Yeah, that's
going back
that's
to
a
the
fairly
work.
long query for me. You notice it's
Yeah.
not 3 paragraphs. It's
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I got all confused, and I'm like, did things change in,
Yeah.
5 years?
Nope, you got ripped off.
Okay.
Okay.
Brief duty.
Let's talk about what to do with a query letter. This is about how do I get an agent in TradPub. Okay, let's talk about this. There is a learnable, doable process. Okay, it will cost you time and $25. Okay, so this is it in a nutshell. You need to get a good list of agents, and you keep querying them until they tell you no. Okay, now how do you do that? A great place to get a good list of agents is Publishers Marketplace. They've been $25 a month for years. With inflation, I don't know, maybe it's going up now. Okay. This is like a year old. It's a snapshot of their front page. Okay. Publishers Marketplace. So here's the deal. You're going to sign up for 1 month. You're going to get everything you need in an afternoon, and then you're going to end your subscription. Okay, so at the heart of Publishers Marketplace, it's an information sharing site for the TradPub industry. One of the things they have is a forum where agents and editors announce deals that have been done. Okay, they look like this. Author Sally First Timer has just sold 3 books repped by agent Susan such and such to editor this and that in a respectable deal to be published by, Penguin Random House. Okay? You get those things have the name of the agent, usually the name of the editor, and they have and when they say, oh, a good deal, a nice deal, a major deal, that's code. Those reflect brackets in an actual dollar amount of the advance, okay? And that's basically searchable. And that's what you want, is to go basically search that information, okay? And it's not hard. So again, this is a few months old, and you're probably not gonna see it very well. But basically over here, you're looking for the deal makers page. And it's the tab over here. And what you've got up here, again, I'll give you your email address. I'll email you the slide deck. I'll also send you a link to where I did this at World Fantasy, and it's on YouTube, so you can see it better. Okay? You can toggle. So you can choose things like, am I looking for an editor or an agent? And you can choose genres. So you can say, I'm looking for agents who do romance novels. Or I'm looking for agents who do science fiction, okay? And then there is another toggle, I think it may be over here, where you say, okay, show me who does the most deals, or show me who does the biggest deals, okay? So you pay $25, you get access to this, you come in here and you say, okay, I've got a fantasy novel. So show me the agents who have done the most fantasy deals, and it goes back 18 months. And it gives you a list of 100. Okay? And you just copy that list and you put it in a note, right? A Word file. The reason I like this, as opposed to combing through editors and predators or something else, okay, is the one thing you know about any of these people is that they're actually doing deals. right? They're actually doing deals. That's what you want, is an agent who's actually doing deals. So I copy the whole fantasy list, then I toggle it to say, show me the agents who do the biggest deals. You're gonna get a mostly but not entirely identical list. You'll pick up a few more names, all right? And then you go, you know what, sci-fi, agents who represent sci-fi or doing sci-fi deals might also do fantasy. You know what, toggle it, look at sci-fi, right? And you're just grabbing this list of agents. And hey, you know what, my stories has got some romance going on it. Let me check who's done romance deals, okay? And so you're gonna end up with a bunch of agent names, okay? That's your get a good list of agents. You're gonna have duplications, you gotta go through and weed them out. You gotta go through and weed them out. And then you gotta go check their websites. Oh yeah, so here you are selecting type. The editor, an imprint, an agent, an agency. There's the list of genres you can't see, but obviously it's quite long. You can select like cookbooks and diet books as well as, you know, genre detective novels or whatever. And here's the top of the list when Russell Galen had done the most. Oh, here's the toggle, most deals, biggest deals. Okay, that gives you a list. Now you make sure you eliminate the redundant ones, and then you put them. Well, then you go look them up, right? Every one of them is going to have a website. They have to. Why? They have to be open to having new clients, or they have no future business. So at the least I've ever seen them have is a publicly findable profile page on Publishers Marketplace itself. At least they have that, or like LinkedIn, and it's searchable, and it will say, I'm looking for this. So you go look, and what you want to know is, are they looking for the kind of book I have, right? Are they taking offers now, or taking queries now? And what do they want? And what do they want is actually mostly the easiest thing, because at this point they mostly want the same thing. They mostly want, send me an email, and put the first 10 pages or the first chapter in the bottom of the email, okay? Which means you can create an email, and being very careful not to accidentally, don't email them all at once, but carefully copy and paste, and you can send the same email to most of them, okay? Now, you gotta keep track though. So make a spreadsheet, okay? Or a list somehow, okay? Where you're gonna say, here's the agent, and you know, the agency, and okay, on this day I submitted, and on this day she answered, okay? There's only one real rule here, and that's don't email two agents at the same agency simultaneously. And the reason is, if they both like it, they will talk about it, and then they will both be mad at you. So don't do that, okay? Other than that, most of what they will tell you about their rules on their website, they're mostly bullshit, okay? And they're mostly designed to discourage you. So in particular, if the agent says, if I don't get back to you, that's a no, that is a lie. If the agent doesn't get back to you, that is an I didn't read your query, okay? So you need to keep track so you know that I queried this person, and she hasn't responded, and it's been 6 weeks, I'm gonna query him again. Now you need to, when you do that, you need to send the same email, but change your subject line slightly so that their inbox doesn't organize it as a conversation, and it doesn't look like you're pestering them. And don't say I'm following up, just send a new query. Because probably she was on vacation, and the admin just missed it, or just deleted it, okay? All you do is go through until you have made them all say no to you, right? Until you've made them all say no to you. And fundamentally, that is the process. Do I even have any more slides left? Yeah, that's it. Okay, we're down to like 40 seconds. Questions?
Should I send candy?
You should definitely not send candy. Hey, if you want me to send you the slide decks, and I'll send you a link to where it is on YouTube, come put your email address on this. I won't add you to my mailing list, okay?